All right, we are recording this time.
Yes.
I'm not sure what can be seen.
I don't know what you want to see. If you want to see us or the crowd.
Probably shortly see the guy.
Hi.
All right, I'm going to call the meeting to order at 6:02 p.m. We are live streaming and recording everything here, so we're on the record. I changed things around a bit on the agenda, and I opted to go ahead and start with public comments. So that way we can go ahead and get whatever concerns the public has out of the way, and then be able to discuss those concerns during the rest of our meeting instead of waiting to the end and then already having our meeting, and then the public comments would come in at the end. So I will go ahead and open the floor for public comments at this point to see who wants to start first with whatever.
I always thought a public comment had to be last after the meeting, so they could discuss what you talked about at the meeting. I thought that was respect.
If we want to, I don't understand you differently, so I just feel it's kind of, it's kind of like having a truth in taxation after you've already passed the budget.
Well, I'm not arguing with you, I just think that there's rules that govern how, like, we have to set those forth on the agenda. And you could have two, it doesn't stop you from having two, you could have one at the beginning and one at the end, for sure.
Okay, well.
But I think you still have to have one at the end.
Okay. Well, we're still signing, so if anybody has anything they'd like to bring up at the moment, and we can at least take that under advisement after go through the rest of the meeting, open to hearing anything.
Not on that, but you have a comment online that says they want to see who speaks.
They want to see
Whether
who is
they want it on
speaking?
the board or not, I'm just,
Geez, I don't know how to do that.
Unfortunately,
Doing
our
the best we can.
technology, yeah.
We'll have to get another camera in a corner, I guess, or something. Sorry, we can't manage that one at the moment.
That would be nice, yeah.
Can I ask where we're at with the spreadsheet that was supposed to connect the two systems?
I do have that on the agenda, so hopefully we'll be bringing that up and get an update.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably just be turn invoice in. You can get to your next one.
Is it the phone or the computer that's?
Both.
One's on Facebook and one's recording the Teams meeting. So,
We're trying to double up here, so.
you want this thing? I mean, you want to, yeah.
Change our. I don't know. There's still no way unless you want to stand up here and like point at it. You just want to stand here and hold it.
Ta-da. Where do you want it?
Just pointing at the desk.
Right about there to begin.
Let me see.
Yeah.
Michelle, any further comment about getting
Yeah, I'm,
sick?
so I'm glad, yeah, I would go ahead and,
Oh, this is very delayed, so let's see, he's just now getting up to go give it to him. Yes, it's moving around there.
yeah, I would then add it and then, yeah, we can then adjust it again.
Okay. Well, hearing no public comments at the moment, we'll move forward, as we're still signing the 2025, 26, and 27 budgets. Under the website, just want to announce that the fiscal year 2025 financial treasure report is available on the website. So there have been some people, numerous people that have asked about, well, how did 2025 end up? I went ahead and had our treasurer go ahead and give the same year-end report that I would use in order to figure out what the numbers are. So I'm not privy to anything that the public's not privy to. So that is out there on the website for anybody to use and do the calculations to determine how we ended up in 2025. Many people have talked about deficits. I guess that's kind of, anytime I've referenced a deficit, it's been specific to the general fund, but people may be interested in, is there a deficit in the health department? Is there a deficit in an ambulance? So for us to say what deficit, how much, as a county as a whole, I don't know how you answer that. So I think it's important to be transparent and just give all the financials, and that's why we posted it out there on the website, so they can look at the entire year-end by department to see what those numbers ended up being. Ultimately, the auditors will determine what the end results are, but those are the numbers that we have at this point. So, also an announcement for the 2026 employee compensation is out there on the website too. Thank you to our clerk in getting that information put together. So that should be updated as of what I believe is supposed to be paid for the upcoming fiscal year of 2026. That includes salaries. I believe it had the stipends, compensation for benefits, the whole 9 yards. So you get to see where all of your tax dollars are going. Under the review of the 2026 budget, one of the things that I wanted to bring up is that, again, we get a summary report at the end of every month from the treasurer's office. So we are 5 months into our fiscal year. I wanted to bring attention to major revenues for the county clerk fees, circuit clerk fees, personal property taxes, and sheriff fees. They are actually down about $106,000 from what we budgeted for. So when you look at those percentages used on that summary sheet for those revenues, we are in the 38%, 30%, 29%, and 33% for revenues compared to what we budgeted. But we should be running about 41% or so. for our 5 months in. So while there may be some additional monies that have been received in other funds that we had anticipated a lower amount, and thankfully we've gotten more. For example, the sales tax I think is actually higher this year than when we anticipated. One thing that I am trying to make sure that we're all on the same page is these are our revenues that we expect to get to help continue to pay the expenses that we expect to pay. So just because somebody has, where a department may have $200,000, $500,000 in it sitting in a CD, that's not revenue against expenses, that's cash. That's already sitting out there as an asset, so we can't really count that as revenue for the current year. That was revenue that came from prior years. It's now sitting as an asset in a bank account. So as we continue further into this and start looking for definitely our 2027 budget, we need to be comparing what do we expect to get as revenue to be able to compare that to what are we going to spend in expenses. So right now, as I said, we're about $106,000 short based off of our expected revenue in those 4 major categories. I don't know that there's anything we can really do about it. We're just at the mercy of collecting what we collect. So I don't know exactly how those fees are paid, if there's fees that are outstanding that maybe letters need to be sent saying, hey, send and pay your bill. But I will leave that to the department heads.
So like the county clerk fees, those are by recording transactions. So if you don't record a lot of real estate, that's what the real estate market dictates that. But since for this fiscal year, 12/1 through 5/9, you're ahead in revenues $300,000. Your revenue total is ahead. You started the beginning of the year with the $201,000 surplus. You've brought in $3.7 million, and you've only spent $3.3 million.
Where are you getting your numbers from?
The fund report that I ran. It should be in that packet, I think, that I gave you. Yeah, it's on page 2. So based upon the budget that we posted online, or the final financial report that we posted online, the county general fund ended the year with a surplus of over $100,000. We had $200,000 in the general fund in this report starting December 1st of 2025, and we're now reporting that we've taken in more than we've spent, and we have an ending balance as of today of almost $600,000.
So the beginning balance that you're talking about, that is from the prior year, correct?
Correct.
And the 3.7 in receipts, that is just coming from the general fund.
This is only general fund.
Okay. So of the $3,700,000, that includes the $750,000 that we received in CDs.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure. I'm just saying that right now, your revenues are up.
But the CDs aren't a revenue, that's what I'm trying to explain.
But your overall amount that you've taken in, according to what you've spent, is up, is what we're getting at. So I think the big questions were, when we say we're in a deficit necessarily at this point, this is not showing that. Because you also have about $318,000 in general fund revenue sitting in Fund 18 that's not accounted for, that's general fund money. So you would add that onto this 500. So even if you take the 750 out, you're still in a surplus.
Yeah, that's not how it works.
Okay.
So
Okay.
when you get $750,000 of cash that's sitting in another department that's already been earned from a road tax agreement or a road use agreement, that was income from years prior. You can't count it again as revenue again in this year for $750,000, which is included in this $3.7 million. The $355,000 that we've already borrowed from the anticipation note is also a loan that's counted as revenue on this report, but it's not a revenue. It's actually kind of a replacement of the tax that we'll eventually get, so it could kind of be considered a revenue, but
You
it's
borrowed
not.
how much in the anticipation?
Last time,
555.
well, now we're at 555, but the numbers I'm going off of are at the end of or the end of April. So at the end of April, we used 355,000 of our anticipation note.
Of the general funds?
Yes.
355, okay. Was that number approved specifically or no?
Was that number approved?
Yeah.
Our treasurer went ahead and said, yes, we need to borrow some money so we
No,
can
I,
pay our bills.
and it totally, yeah, absolutely, 100%. I just want to make sure, I didn't know if that number reflected in any minutes that you had had specifically. So we don't think so, because we just, I mean, you guys just gave it blanket approval to borrow up to X amount, you know?
Right.
Okay, that
Yeah,
makes sense.
I would say we borrow up to the anticipation note level, and we're gonna make sure we can get our bills paid.
Okay, and so Scott, you think that that's gonna show up in here and not as a transfer? Do you know how you put it in the system?
Shows up as a transfer in.
Oh,
It does show as a transfer in, but all transfer ins are considered revenue for this 3.7 million.
they are.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
so that's where if you actually look at the report and see at the very top, there are 0 zeros, and those are your transfer in of the 355 or 500,000. The other thing is that the 500,000 that we paid back is actually considered an expense. Well, that's not really true either. A $500,000 loan should be considered a liability. So that's where I ran into a problem at the very beginning of this year, to where I'm trying to determine, you have assets and liabilities that we don't ever see reports on. And then you have your profit loss statement or your cash flow statement here that says what are your revenues coming in and what are your expenses going out. So when we're taking $750,000 of CD money into the general fund, I don't consider that as revenue. I just consider that's not $750,000 we're gonna get later, so we sure wouldn't count on it as to putting it to future expenses. I'm saying that the cap is sitting someplace else and should not be considered part of this $3.7 million of revenue, but it does count as revenue when you look at these fund status reports. So it's, you have to kind of look at the whole part and figure out what do you need to back out. You need to back out the $355,000 of loan, because the loan isn't a revenue. You need to back out the $750,000 of CD money that we got, because that's not a revenue, that was cash sitting someplace else. You need to add back in the $500,000 that we paid back, because that was a liability, that wasn't an expense. So there's some math that needs to kind of go into this, and to look at a report on face value and say, this is what we had, this is what we went to, is very misleading.
Well, I know, but when I get FOIA'd or people ask me, this is what I would send out. I think that's why everybody's confused and are wanting an actual number of maybe what the deficit is, because this is what I send out to people, and I don't have the luxury of explaining it like that, right? So what I guess we're saying is, if these need to be tracked differently, we should probably be doing that to make it more clear for people.
I don't disagree. And again, I would have preferred to see that $500,000 that was paid for a loan. It shouldn't be an expense. When you're paying off a loan, it's not an expense. It's you're paying off a liability. And again, you're getting the $750,000 in cash from CDs. That's not revenue. What we have revenue is fees. You know, we get the fees from the clerk and the circuit clerk and the sheriff's office. Those are revenues. Cash that is received from other departments from money that's sitting there is not really considered revenue. It was revenue at one time, but it's already been counted for, so we shouldn't count it twice. So that's also again why I said let's put the fund report out there on the website, and I'm more than happy to answer whatever questions people may have about it, but I don't want to come out and say here's the definitive number for a deficit, because first of all, I don't know exactly what they're asking, and secondly, that number is going to change once the audit's done. So therefore, I don't want to hang my hat on saying here's what the deficit was. But as was asked at prior board meeting, I do know that we should have been probably about $500,000 less than we anticipated, because that's what we had to borrow in order to make payroll, and that's what we ended up paying back. So we must have had a deficit of at least $500,000.
You don't think that was cash flow? You think that was a formal deficit?
Well, again, cash flow and deficit potentially are two different things, and the reason I say that is we could have went and borrowed the $500,000 received the cash to flow it to the expense. So that's not a cash flow problem. We have the cash because we borrowed it, but we still have the expense. Those are two different things. I mean, so cash flow is, do you have the cash in hand to pay your bills?
Right,
If you borrowed the money, you'll have the cash in hand to pay the bills.
right.
Okay, so you have a cash flow that you can pay your bill with because you borrowed the money, but you were still short the revenue. Otherwise, you wouldn't have had to borrow the money.
Well, but so because our property taxes came in so late, you used the property tax to pay back the loan. So if the property tax came in a month earlier, you wouldn't have had to borrow that $500,000 because you would have had the property tax. That's what I'm asking about, if you think it was a cash flow problem, because you were able to pay it back in full after we got our property taxes.
Well, we paid it back in full after we actually used the CD money.
But what I'm getting at is, if you would have had that 500,000 beforehand, before you borrowed it, you wouldn't have had to borrow it, right? If your property taxes came in 2 months earlier, you would have had $500,000 extra, wouldn't have had to borrow it. That's what I'm saying, cash flow, because the money came in, it just came in at the end of the year.
No. The real estate taxes came in and paid the anticipation note that we had.
Right,
in
which is
lieu of
only
the taxes.
80%. It's not the 100% of what your real estate taxes are. So you still have money that you're making on top of what you can borrow. You can't borrow 100% your anticipation note.
I don't
It's
disagree.
85%, so
Okay.
you had extra money.
Well, yeah, there would have been 15% that would have been collected later, and that may be where the $200,000 of extra cash is sitting. But then again, that's where you look at your total revenue received against your total expenses on the summary report.
Sure.
So that's not going to be a cash flow statement. That's going to be what revenue did you receive from your taxes against what expenses did you have.
Right.
Okay, so cash flow and expense and income are kind of two different things. They relate to where you have to have the cash flow in or the income in order to pay the expenses back out. But we can get cash. That's not the problem. We can go and get the cash by borrowing it in order to flow it to our expenses. That doesn't mean we received the revenue. That's the bigger issue, is that our expenses continue to be more than our revenues. Not a cash flow problem.
So if we look at the report that we posted online, the general fund revenues versus expenses, it shows like $154,000 surplus for 2025. And that's just general fund. That's revenue versus expenses.
Right, so I'm looking at page 13 of the budget summary that was just sent out.
For 26.
At the end of April.
That's 26. That's about 25.
Right, but it's still gonna be the same idea, the same makeup as far as how to read it.
Okay.
So the revenue is 3.2 million. The expenses are 3.1. So the logic in that would be, well, we actually have $130,000 more in revenue than we do expenses. But again, what you have to add into that 3.2 is the 750,000 that we had from the CDs, the 355,000 per this report that we had from the anticipation note. So that right there is an extra $1 million of revenue that's being counted that wasn't really income. But the expense side, you have to back off that have to back off the $500,000 loan that we paid back as an expense. So we actually have collected about 2.2 million and have paid out about 2.6 in expenses. So even though we're showing a surplus here between the revenue that we've received, because we're counting we're counting CD money and loans as revenue, and put that against the expenses that we're paying, which is also counting paying off a loan that we had, they're kind of skewed when it comes up to what is our real revenue compared to what is our real expenses. And that's where you have to kind of go through line by line and realize, oh, well, this was counted as revenue, but it was a loan, or this was counted as revenue, but this was money from CDs. So that's where it can be very confusing when you start looking at these reports and not know those little idiosyncrasies just because of the way that we track things.
Oh, okay. Well, that's the thing, because I mean, in the report that was sent out, it shows that $750,000 is a transfer. But on this report, it's showing $0 transferred for the general fund.
I don't understand.
So on that report it has a transfer section. It shows you what's transferred in to not count it as receipts.
On the report that you gave me?
Yeah, the year-to-date, the 12/1/25 through 5/19/26.
Okay.
Okay, see that transfer line or ending balance?
$4,600.
No, that's a different fund. It's zero. So if it was really a transfer and shouldn't be counted as a receipt, it should be in the transfer section. What I'm getting at is, I think there's a whole thing about why people are confused, and it's because of, I can print these reports off all day long, you know, and I'm at least lucky to understand a little bit of it, because I see it, but until stuff actually, you know, goes where it needs to go, or where people can explain it, I think that's where everybody's kind of getting lost at, and, you know, because it's not making sense. And then when you know, if we send this stuff out, if people request it, you know, then we get bombarded with questions, and I would love to answer them, but, you know, we come to finance meetings and different things for clarification, and based upon that discussion about a transfer, what we just talked about is not reflecting on this.
See, I don't have the full report handy, and my computer just froze, so I can't pull it up. I can look at it tomorrow, but I
guess my thing is, the questions that we've been getting, we're just like, people are really interested in what the deficit number is, you know, and I get that there's a lot that goes into it. I just think that it would be nice for, you know, maybe the finance committee to put together a number with a margin of error to be able to tell people, because we went through all of the budget hearings. I think numbers were thrown out of a deficit of up to $1.8 million even, you know, and people are really concerned, and I don't blame them. And especially when you're getting into property tax board of review, I think that, you know, while yes, these reports are complicated, things might not be in the spot they need to be, you know, that's stuff that can be worked out. But I think as far as information for the public, it needs to be a little bit more clear on what we're actually looking at. And if we're confused and it's our numbers, I think that right there speaks volumes.
And there are none of them that are gonna be accurate until they're audited.
Well, but I think we
Because
can do
the
a margin of
auditors will
error.
do accrual accounting. It's just like the property tax. The final distribution of property tax shows up in this report. But yet the auditors will probably accrue that back to last year's. But it shows up in the receipts in this one.
So the beginning balance and imbalances, Scott, do you believe that those are accurate? Those are what are supposed to be reconciled to the general fund checking account?
Yes.
Do you believe that?
I don't know what she's got, but
So this would be county code or county general fund 001. Repairing disk errors. Awesome.
Oh, this is last year's. That'll tell you that we started with
I
100.
did that coffee actually down there too. Let's go with coffee on my computer. Okay. I'll back up. Well, everything's on the cloud. I hope that I can see some. Yeah.
Can I ask something while I'm
Sure.
contemplating? I'm just curious, when you said that a loan isn't considered an expense, did I misunderstand that, or because when I make a loan payment, personally, I consider that an expense.
A loan payment would be a cash flow. So when you're trying to say, when you make a $1,000 loan payment, part of that is principal, part of that's interest. So the $1,000 is considered for cash flow purposes, but the liability may be $200,000 depending on how much you borrowed.
Right, but for a person, a general person at home doing their budget,
What do you
you
want to
have
compare? I've got
$1,000
this
car
year's.
payment a
So-
month, you're gonna expense $1,000, because that's
Look at what,
you
oh, I
need
have it.
to have available to make
Look at the
that
budget
payment.
status.
Right.
So
I've got,
I think that just was confusing to me when you said it's not an expense.
I've got a
because
rental
I think any of us had a loan considered
Good break
it
So-
all out.
So here's the part that I would say. The expense was the payroll that we had to borrow the $500,000 for. You're not gonna count it twice. You don't have $500,000 of payroll and then another expense of $500,000 loan. You borrowed $500,000 to pay that expense. You're gonna cash flow that $500,000 back out to pay the loan off, but you don't count the expense twice. You didn't have $1 million of expenses. You only had the $500,000 expenses. You just didn't have the cash to pay it, so you had to borrow.
Maybe I'm just making it too difficult, but I'm just thinking when I like sign a note for a car for $1,000, when I'm writing that out of my checkbook every month, I'm not, most general people don't sit and go, well, how much is principal, how much is interest? They're like, this is how much I have to pay.
Yeah.
So for the general public, what is our expense for that month? $1,000.
But when we get a loan, it shows up as revenue, but it's not income. So you
But
don't
it's
you don't
still
go
an
get a car,
expense.
you don't go get a car loan, but you don't go get a car loan and say your salary is $50,000 a year, and you go get a $20,000 car loan. You don't say, oh, I had $70,000 in revenue for that
Right.
year.
No, I get that part. I'm just saying, but on this side of it, I think it's still an expense. Your loan payment is an expense.
It's a loan payment's an expense, yeah.
But,
Yes.
well, it's part of what you pay for your cash flow, but the expense was the car. The $40,000 that you spent on the car was the expense.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm just saying for general public, if we're trying to make it easier for people to understand, people don't really care how much the loan was. They want to know how much money you're putting out each month. And we want to know how much money do I have to put out each month for that car loan so I can keep driving my car.
Yeah, well, and I don't want to speak for Mr. Filbert, but I would say that government accounting is not the same as simple accounting, to where if you've got to do double entry and you've got to sit there and try and track stuff, that's not what we normally do in our house. So ideally, it would be nice if we could equate to our accounting system as the regular way a person figures out, this is my house payment, this is my insurance payment, this is how much I got coming in for my paycheck, and this is what we do. But that's not how the government accounting system works. So,
I mean, I still think it should be considered an expense, and I understand that you're saying it's not, the loan payment isn't necessarily a revenue. I mean, I get what you're coming from, but let's ask Mr. Filbert. He's
Well, no. I mean, first of all, it has nothing to do with Mr. Filbert.
right.
I'm not in charge of accounting finances, but I am a CPA, and we're making this conversation way too complicated. We had a cash flow deficit in August of last year. And so a decision was made to take $500,000 from the tort liability fund to cover that cash flow deficit. So we debited cash and we credited, it's really not a loan, it was just a transfer. You can call it a loan or whatnot, but that was something that had to be paid back to the tort liability fund. So that was a one-time source. So that goes to what Mr. Ross is saying, is that, you know, that wasn't a property tax inflow, that wasn't a fee that was generated, that was $500,000 that we had sitting in a separate account, and we used that money. Okay. The board said we're going to pay it back as soon as we can. And then, and by the way, we had a whole bunch of money sitting in an account in a CD at the exact same time on these windmill money that we got, the windfall that we got, which is on one time only. Okay, you know, they decided to do it that way instead of take the CD money. I understand that, but then what I understood happened is we're done with 2025 now. And in 2026, they cashed in $750,000 or so of the windmill money, and immediately took $500,000 of that money and paid back the tort liability fund. Correct?
correct.
Okay. So that windmill money happened in 2026, and the payback to the tort liability happened in 2026. What happened in 2025 is that we took $500,000 to cover. And so just take the windmill money and forget about it when you're talking about 2025. So what you have to do is you have to take the actual revenues and then add in that $500,000 from the tort liability fund, and then compare that to all of our expenses and see where we are.
And that should be really simple math. It's posted now, just for my own amusement, because I am a taxpayer like everybody else. I'm gonna go and crank the numbers for my own personal benefit. But hopefully that simplified it a little bit as to what was going on. And by the way, government accounting standards use debit and credits just like the rest of the world. And there are financial statements, they're not the auditor's financial statements. All they're doing is coming in, and if they feel that there's tweaks that need to be made, but at the end of the day, the only opinion that they are offering is that our financial statements present fairly what actually happened.
Okay. So, Kim, I'll use this example. We did an upgrade a few years ago for $100,000 of IT, but we made payments against that $100,000 because that's the arrangement we had. So what's the expense? The $100,000 of hardware that we bought, or the payments that we make against the $100,000 throughout the year?
On a budget perspective, you're gonna have that expense every month of what that expense is. That IT equipment would actually be an asset.
Right.
And so that's a separate item on your general ledger. I think we're confusing general ledger and cash register, our register. And I think that's what happens often, is your general ledger is what tracks all of that. This is what our loan is, this is what our assets are, all that stuff stays over here. But what I think most people in the general public don't, and I'm speaking very widely, so a lot of people understand it, and just saying, in general, most people don't keep a general ledger at home. They keep a cash register. Mm-hmm. They keep their checkbook, if anybody even does that anymore. I know half the people don't. But that's what people are looking at. What money do I have? Businesses and such need to understand that general ledger side, which shows that asset, that $100,000, and that's your asset. And there'll be an asset and liability to offset each other would be the loan. So I mean, I don't think either one of us is right or wrong. I'm just trying to clarify for people that general ledger, cash are just two very different things. But when you're writing that check out each month, that is still an expense to people.
Okay.
And just in all the accounting stuff I've done in years, that's how I see that.
So I just want to be clear that if we have to borrow money in order to pay for the expenses and bills that are put before us, I feel, yes, there's definitely a cash flow issue because we didn't have the cash to pay the bills. But if we're not going to have the revenue in to pay that loan back by the end of the fiscal year, then that means that we didn't have the revenue to support the expenses that we have.
I mean, I get what you're saying.
Okay. So when I say that there's a deficit, I'm just saying that we did not receive the revenue, not that we didn't have cash, because I know that was one thing, like on the ambulance side. The ambulance, when they did their budget, they had a negative amount there. We have a negative amount. We have a deficit budget, but we have the cash to get us through this. But we couldn't justify that we were gonna have the revenue to support the expenses, even on the budget that we passed for 2026. But we put in there that we were gonna take the $900,000 in CDs. So when I talk about a deficit, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about we don't have the revenues coming in order to pay the expenses that I see that are being paid out. And that's where I saw that we had an issue. There was anticipated revenues that were put in the 2025 budget that did not materialize, but we had the expenses there. We just didn't get the revenue in. That's why we had to borrow the money. So that was what I saw that was going to happen in 2025. That's what I believe the 2025 report out there on the website shows, is that we didn't receive the revenue that was anticipated in that budget. And that's where I think that there was definitely a deficit based off of what we had to borrow in order to pay the bills. So.
And I think if anybody, if the general public is confused, it's a very hard thing to understand, I think. And people use different words and phrases, but adding to the confusion would be if anyone leaves here and and gives people the impression this is just a cash flow problem. Because as I remember things, in December of 25, which was the month I became chairman,
24.
Scott, 24, thank you very much, 24. Scott, for fiscal year 25, Scott and I went to the bank and signed an anticipation note. And Scott, please tell me if I'm wrong, but as I remember, that was in December.
It was.
The first month of our fiscal year. It wasn't, we were 3/4 of the way through the year and didn't have enough money to get through. It was the first month of our fiscal year. So, and, I mean, I don't normally put my name on something that says you're borrowing $1 million or something. Never done that in my life. But I did it that day with Scott. We got that money and we were using it to pay our bills. And yes, there are cash flow issues that we have to manage every year. But then, before fiscal year 25 was done, we had to borrow that money from the tort liability fund. So, you know, we had all of that money from the bank managing the cash flow. We still had to borrow $500,000 to make payroll. And the worst problem with that is that tort liability fund was a one-time amount of money we were borrowing. We were able to pay it back with the windmill funds, which was one-time money, which is now gone. Payroll is not a one-time expense. We've still got that expense and it keeps growing. So it's what we're facing now, which I think is the real issue, and trying not to confuse people any more than necessary. Let the auditors resolve what they believe happened in 25. We've got to think through, well, how are we gonna get through 26? And then what's gonna be our budget for 27? And if somebody's aware of another pot of one-time money that we can use to cover expenses, please speak up. I'd love to find we've got a pot of gold somewhere that we can use, but I don't know where it's coming from this time. So, to me, the main thing is to stay focused on what's happening right now. And I used to respond to FOIAs in my old job. Maybe, Walker, you disagree that this is the way to handle it, but if people are really asking for what the 25 deficit was, I don't think it's wrong to just say to them, the audit has not begun yet. We don't have that answer right now.
Well, I think also as elected officials, you guys asked us to work on our budgets, and I'm very thankful that we're starting early, but getting a formal deficit number for us or something within a margin of error is critical, so we know what to ask for. So asking about pots of money right now, or you ended 2025 with that Fund 18 that was not budgeted, that was the health insurance clearing account with $311,000 in it. So there was $300,000 sitting there that could have been used for something different, that was just sitting there waiting to pay a bill for January because that November bill had already been paid. So that's why I'm saying it's cash flow and cash management, because funds are being taken from general fund and put maybe in off-chart accounts to hold them. And I understand why Scott does that. I totally get it. You don't want the general fund to go through it, and it's health insurance, but it's still general fund money. It's money that departments are paying to pay that health insurance bill, and that health insurance bill is general fund, and this is just sitting in an account not doing anything, waiting for 30, 40 days to pay the bill. So when you're looking at all that, that cash management's the kicker. We could have borrowed that 300 and some thousand at the end of the year, to pay different things instead of borrowing the anticipation note. But I'll tell you, my first day in office, we were borrowing the anticipation note. And if you go back in board minutes, it's happened a month earlier consistently, but our audit told us from 2022 that we ended with a surplus of $700,000. So we even borrowed the anticipation note loan the first day of that year too. So how are we borrowing it the first day of 22 and ending at the surplus? Like, those are the questions that I have, and that's why I'm saying it's cash management, because it's not that anything nefarious is going on, it's just we're not utilizing the resources that we have here, and instead screaming a deficit when the cash is probably sitting here to be used.
So, to that response, and Scott and I just talked about that, what concerns me by looking at bank statements and amounts of money that are sitting in an account compared to the statements and the profit and loss and expenses is, you know, there was supposed to be $50,000 moved out of the general fund under managed IT and put in our GIS account. Well, the 50,000 sitting in the general fund right now, so you would make the argument potentially that, hey, we've got $50,000 in cash we could be using. Well, now if you use that cash for something else, then how am I supposed to do my GIS because it hadn't been moved correctly? And the same thing would be as we're trying to get better in depositing money for our health insurance. Well, that deposit goes in every pay, so there could be cash sitting in there, but yet we're still gonna have a bill for the whole month come later. We can't be looking at cash sitting in checking accounts or balances and saying that money's there to use when we can't arbitrarily say we don't know what bills that money's there for.
Our health insurance averages $150,000 a month. This is $311,000 at the end of the year. There's two premiums worth in there. That's mismanagement.
Okay, well, I'm gonna go with.
So you're saying that money's not needed for health insurance?
It will be, but we weren't paying that bill till January.
It was used.
In January. So you could have used it, but you were also taking those premiums out, so you were gonna have more money from employees that was gonna be sitting there. Because how it works is, you pay your 2 bills in November, you don't have a payment in December, and then you get your January, February bill in January. So we'd already paid that by the time the ending balance had occurred, so you still had $311,000.
So at the end of what month are we talking about? We have three.
This is the end of fiscal year 25.
At the end of fiscal year 25, there was $311,000 sitting in the Fund 18.
Yes.
Okay,
So we've already lost, we went down 40,000.
okay. So first of all, I think we'll all agree that Fund 18 never even showed up on the budget.
It was never budgeted, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not a budgeted fund.
Yeah, well, okay. Secondly, I'm sorry, but I don't know how accurate this $311,000 really is.
I'd agree, that's our question.
And so what's on a statement that's printed out of our accounting system and what's actually sitting in a bank account, I think we all can agree have sometimes been different numbers.
How do we get them the same?
Well, that would have to do with making sure that everything is being reconciled as we go along.
The double entering back and balancing back, right?
Right.
Like, so you have the front entry and then you have the back entry. The double entry.
There was a piece missing that accumulated over $26 million, that the expenses weren't there.
Well, yeah, so those entries weren't being done, we talked about that. The treasurer's office wasn't making any entries, which, you know, we can work on, but this has nothing to do with payroll. This is not a fund that payroll ever touched. This fund right here has zero to do with payroll.
Okay.
So this would have just been entry, so then it's still, so this should be very easy to reconcile. It should only have 12 transactions a year. Or 11, actually.
Possibly.
So I guess my question is, you know, I don't see bank statements. I only can go off this. I can only go off reports. I don't have access to the bank statements on every fund. So if I'm going through looking at these, you know, and trying to make sense, how are we all supposed to know that the bank statements don't match these if this is what's being sent to us every month as our formal report for what we should go off of? And you're saying that we really can't go off this because we know it doesn't match the bank statements.
You used to get the fund status reports until we went to Paycom. Then after that, it ended. And it was balanced. It had everything in it. It had the CDs listed in all of them. It had all of it.
Well,
Okay.
actually, I'm gonna jump ahead here because one of the parts after this was the announced bank statements were sent to all board members. Did you get a copy of the bank statement?
For April. Yes.
Okay.
No, for March.
I'm sorry, for March.
So, okay, do you believe when you were looking there that Fund 18 bank statement that we just talked about had 200,000 sitting in it?
Disclosed.
So we have nothing sitting in
There's
it.
nothing there.
But it's still having transactions here.
I don't know why it's having transactions there.
I was gonna say, I
There's
didn't think we
nothing
were
there to use it
using
the income
Fund
tax
18 at
clearing.
all.
Okay,
We moved it to income tax clearing.
so you moved 300, did you know how much you moved at the end of the year?
No, you spent it
Who spent it?
whenever you paid your health insurance.
So did that just affect the cash part, that that's the GL part? Is that report that you're
I don't
looking
know
at
why it's
GL?
showing something there now.
If nobody made an entry into the GL portion, it would stay the same.
Yeah.
So maybe it's just an entry that needs to be made. I mean, stuff
And health
happens.
insurance not
Yeah,
part
it
of
does.
payroll.
No, Fund 18 doesn't have anything to do with payroll. If it did, we wouldn't have shut it down, I think, right?
I think truthfully, we should have stuck with Fund 18, so all the health insurance is completely separated and not locked up into the income tax clearing account.
Well, what,
And then everything for health insurance be paid directly out of it. But
and,
it accomplished what I wanted, is keeping it separate from the general fund to put it in the income tax clearing.
Can you add it to your next budget and make it an actual budgeted, put it to your,
I
summary
think it'd be
reports?
cleaner if we did.
You know what I mean? Can you add that?
well, I mean,
And
what,
then that solves some of that issue.
and here's what we're running into, I believe. You shouldn't need 70 some odd accounts. I mean, if you had an income tax clearing account and could dump it all in there and count on your accounting system to keep track of it all, you could have one checking account for that stuff. The problem that we run into, and what I'm kind of hearing, is that people's gonna look at that checking account and say, hey, we've got $300,000, we've got $500,000 sitting there, we can go ahead and pay this and this and this. Well, if it's not being tracked properly in the accounting system, we have a problem. So I think that's in part maybe what happened is that they said, well, let's start putting some money in this account. So that way we know it's only for this. Let's start putting money in this account so we know it's only for this. And I mean, it just spread everything around like that. But then you run into these situations where, well, this bank account's got this amount of money. It should only have that amount of money in it for a reason. I don't think that the county is sitting there on hundreds of thousands of dollars of cash for no reason. It should have been there for something. Now, one of the things that we talked about is that we like our flex account. We moved money out of our flex account because it should have been paid out. You know, that was money to be reimbursed, had been held out of payroll, put into a flex account, and should have been being reimbursed to the individuals. I'm almost certain those individuals got reimbursed, but where the hell did the money come from? It didn't come out of the flex account, so it must have came out of the general fund, or it must have came out of something else. So therefore, and that would have been a payroll issue. So where was money being paid for expenses and accounts that were arbitrarily set aside for specific purposes? So we have a problem, and I think we're getting very close to trying to identify it, try and pick away at it to get a little clearer direction of where we need to go. So as these things continue to come up, I'm trying to make mental notes to say, I'll look into this, but I finally got my computer to come on. And even though we have departments as 000, the $750,000 of transfer in is in 001011, which is administration, and it's labeled as a revenue. So it says transfer in, but the line item is still a revenue.
So we budgeted it for as revenue.
What's that?
We budgeted it as revenue?
Well, actually, yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Well, it's not really budgeted as revenue. It's actually at the bottom of that page 2 of our budget as a $900,000 of transfer in money.
Yeah.
But when we're pulling this report doesn't go off of our budget sheet or our spreadsheet for our budget. This report, and that was the other reason why I wanted to try and work with CIC's budgeting module. So that way, in my mind, it would have matched. Whatever we were putting in as our budget in our CIC system should have matched that module and not what the spreadsheet is that's out there. But we didn't get anywhere with that, so I went in and rebuilt the spreadsheet and kept doing it the way we have been. But I'm telling you, in CIC, we have budgeted as revenue, though it's labeled transfer in, of $900,000.
So transfers are all gonna be zeros in the middle. So as for a GL standpoint, if you're gonna do a transfer, you don't wanna label it as Fund 11 because that's your revenue fund. You wanna label it as like 011000 transfer in. And that's how CIC recognizes transfers in, because it doesn't have a department to tag that to. So any transfers you budget as a 000.
I hear what you're saying, but that's not what happened.
No, and I understand that. I'm just saying, I think those are things, and these are the same questions that I had the first day that I walked in office, because none of it made sense to me either. We've come a long way trying to ask these questions, but there's a whole lot of stuff that really is hard to understand.
Yeah, but this is non-departmental. So the loan, the anticipation loan, that's actually labeled as loan proceeds. That's not a transfer in. It shows up under 001 general fund, but then department is 000.
Yeah.
But it still shows up as revenue.
It's a transfer in, it shouldn't. It should show up as a transfer in. That's the whole point of labeling it. It's the same.
But as we just pointed out, your choices are revenue and expense, revenue and expenditures. You have to call it something. It's either a revenue or an expense.
Which is, I think, what Kim was getting at. For the sake of trying to clean this up, that's how we're going to look at that, which I understand. Then we need to look at it that way, which is what these numbers are showing us, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's where I'm saying, when you go down the line, you got expense, revenue, and then all of these, that's how CIC has them labeled, either as a revenue or an expense. And which has frustrated the hell out of me is that I don't have anything out there that says liability or asset. I don't have a balance sheet that could say, here's where a loan is and that's a liability, or here's where all of our buildings are and that's an
You can
asset.
add encumbrances.
We don't have that part of the program.
Okay, well, I'm just saying, all I see is a P&L. I see a profit and loss, or an income and revenue. So we have to say, when we're getting money in, we're calling it a revenue. Whether we're borrowing it, whether somebody gifted it to us, whatever it is, we're calling that a revenue. And when we pay a payment out, whether it's for a bill or whether it's a payment towards a loan or whatever else, we're calling that an expense. So we have to have the revenues balanced against our expenses, and that just hasn't happened. So that's, I'm sorry if we're making this a full circle, but I'm telling you, I put this thing in a spreadsheet so many freaking times, and I understand that people can get these reports and look at them and say, what the heck? There's a bunch of adding and subtracting you had to add back in. I say you have to add in that subtract that $355,000 of loan proceeds from this revenue, because it's not a revenue. We didn't earn $355,000 in fees. We borrowed money. So now it will be replaced as tax revenue, because once we get our tax revenue in, then it will pay off that loan. So really that $355,000 could be considered revenue early from the taxes we'll eventually get. So that's what's fixing our cash flow problem. We have to borrow the money to have the cash in order to pay the expenses that are due now for taxes we're going to collect later. But you can't count them both as revenues. They overlap.
Yeah, and I really appreciate the discussion, Derek. I really do. And so I think the other question I have is, do you think it would benefit us to look for a new financial software? I know that there's issues with accrual methods, that we have to pay auditors a lot of money to turn our books into accrual. There are, like, QuickBooks has a button that you can bounce back and forth between cash and accrual, and it should update all of that. Do we think, I personally believe that an updated financial system would benefit us and show clear picture to elected officials, to the public. If we're saying that we just can't trust this, and I am someone that needs to understand this, and quite frankly, I've spent 7.5 years trying to look at it, and even before we switched payroll systems, we still didn't make a whole lot of sense. And so, having said that, I think the writing's on the wall. It might be time to look for something that actually provides the needs that we are looking for.
Before software ever came about, it was all done on paper.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what the software is that's being used. It's the input. It's the garbage in, garbage out. We need to figure out a better way to use what we have available. And I'll tell you honestly, I still believe we have a deficit. We have more expenses than we do revenues, so going out there and trying to say, let's try and get a different accounting software that's going to cost whatever it is not going to fix our deficit. It's not going to fix the $300,000, $500,000, $200,000, whatever the number is not going to fix and create more revenue for us, nor is it going to get rid of the expenses that we have as a problem. So therefore, switching software does not take care of the immediate need of the county.
Okay.
And I'm just trying to work with what I've got. And as I said, I don't have access to CIC, contrary to what I think some people have said. I get a spreadsheet from our treasurer, and I load the spreadsheet into here, and I manipulate that. I do my filters, I do my formulas, and I do all of that off of raw data that's given to me. It's not something I have personal access to. I cannot get into the CIC system. I cannot get into any of the accounting systems of the county. I have to rely on that information being given to me, and then I take that data and manipulate it. So therefore, that's where I said I'm working at the end of April, because that's all I have to work with right now. I don't get a day-to-day, up-to-date information. I only can get what's given to me. So that's what I was saying at the moment right now, at the end of April, we have a surplus, if you will, based off of revenues received, that we'll call revenues, we'll call it cash. Based off of cash received, either from income or from loans, we have more cash than we have in expenses, which is a good thing, and we should be able to do our cash flow. But that is not all revenue. That was not all income, therefore we still have a problem. We don't have enough income coming in for expenses. And going back to what we did when we passed our budget, we capped out what we can get from the taxpayers out of their budget, or out of the levy, for what can be collected for the general fund. So now we have to start working on trying to dwindle down to the expense side of it. And that's what we're working on right now. So I hope this has been helpful, but if you don't mind, I'd like to kind of just keep going through, and maybe something else will get answered or not. But and you guys have anything to add? I've been talking. I should have some water. Okay. All right. So
Thank you, Derek. Thank you.
okay. Yeah. So announced bank statements. We already did that. Review proposed 2026 amendments. So I have two amendments like we did last month. One is the GIS IT, and that particular situation was my own fault, but there was, we have $110,000 of revenue, $50,000 coming from managed IT, $60,000 coming from GIS. So we have $110,000 in revenue. I actually, when I did it all, we had an $11,803 surplus that ended up in the budget, and I hadn't allocated any money into information technology. So there's a couple of things going on right now, which Scott's number one going to take care of transferring the $50,000 into the into GIS, so we can get our DevNet bill paid correctly. And then also there are some bills that have been being paid out for, I think, Tigerhawk, that should really be under information technology but had not. So we're going to get that cleaned up. But anyway, I have a proposal to basically move $11,803 from Fund 037 GIS from budgeted surplus to line item 037096577 information technology for the purposes of correcting an omission of the appropriation of funds during the initial budget process. This amendment utilizes full amount of revenue appropriated for the additional budget adopted and does not require additional revenue from the county. This transfer is administrative in nature and does not change purposes, eligibility, or use of funds, but solely corrects the classification of expenditures. That all makes sense? Okay, so I would entertain a motion from somebody to make that. All right, Lance. Second? Yeah, Don. All right, any other further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. And that motion passed. The second one.
So I need these on the full agenda.
Right. So because the board still needs to pass them. And I think that also needs to be clarified too. These are amendments. They're just being presented to finance. They're being looked at and approved by finance, but the full board still has to approve them. So they'll go before the full board to where the full board may or may not approve it. So.
And this is a wash, right? There's no additional.
Right, because it was taken out of, the surplus. So I can show you, but if you look at the line, if you look.
I'm just saying that we're not amending the budget to spend more or anything like that.
No, that's why I said,
Yep.
yeah, so. And then the same thing, here on the county clerk. We had talked about this at the last meeting, and we would, discuss this, with our county clerk. I have a motion in the amount of $89,223 to be moved from Fund 1, General Fund, from line item 001-008-5666, which is election salaries and expenses, to line item 001-008-5503, which is office personnel, for the purpose of correcting a line item classification error as identified through audit review and in coordination with the county clerk to properly reflect eligible personnel expenses with no change to the total appropriation of the fund. So I want to be very clear about that, is that the original budget was $400,000 for the clerk's office. The revised budget is still the same $400,000. We're not changing, adding, paying any more anywhere. We're just putting a number from one category into the other category. The transfer is administrative in nature and does not change the purpose, eligibility, or use of the funds, but solely corrects a classification of expenditures. This is the same type of transaction and amendment that was made last month for the motor fuel tax and was separated out of a lump sum of the motor fuel tax, and now we've moved over, I think it was $300 and some odd thousand into personnel. So
What all makes up that number?
the 89
Yeah.
or the 400,000?
The 89.
The 89,000 is basically annualizing the total payroll, and then looking at what's currently in your personnel, and then taking the difference that was missing and taking it out of the election line and put it into the personnel.
Okay.
So I think your total personnel budget was originally at $135,530, and now will be $224,753.
Okay, do you know if that includes any election support staff that's not judges?
That would be based off of your payroll
Right.
that you're paying people. So are you talking about,
Here's what I'm getting at. I wasn't asked about that number.
okay,
So I think as we left last month's meeting, you were gonna email me and we were gonna discuss the amendment. That never happened.
okay,
This is new to me. So I'm not willing to endorse that at all at this point until I look at the numbers. And I'm more than willing to, but I wanna make sure that it doesn't include my election support staff. And so if that's the case, then I'd like to at least look at that, and then we can reconvene next month. I mean, I think you can go on with that, but since I didn't verify the numbers, I'm not gonna attest to it until I have a chance to look at it.
what do you define as election support staff? Is it somebody on your payroll or not on your payroll?
So it could be, it could not be. It could be somebody that comes in that works for a different office that we would pay through payroll from the county clerk's office. It could be somebody that's gonna work election night that might work in Bryce's office that I'm gonna have to pay out of elections, even though they're still a county employee. So there's various caveats to that. I get where you're going with it and I appreciate it and I'm more than willing to do it. Since I wasn't approached about this before today, and I know that you were gonna send me an email and I get it, we get busy. I wanna make sure that I have time to look at it and verify those numbers. Cause I think
Okay.
I know what I'd be looking at and looking for, if possible.
Okay, that's fine. So there were two categories. You have your personnel and then what was being put in election lines. And I just basically took, and that seemed to be pretty consistent per pay. So I was just adding those two together times 24.
Okay,
And then, but I did notice that for the election period here, there was more paid out.
Yeah.
I don't know if you paid overtime, if you.
there's a lot of Saturdays, overtime,
Okay.
you'll have holiday pay come the November election.
So that's another, potential issue of,
That's what I'm saying, that's what I'm getting at.
But, and this 224,000 then ended up maybe even higher.
No, it shouldn't be. I think I budgeted that correctly. But what I'm getting at basically is I can't validate that number because I wasn't asked to look into it at this point, but I for sure will.
Okay.
And I mean, I just want to make sure that I know, because, since we're the ones that schedule, we know exactly how it works. It's probably best if I'm involved in it.
Okay. Well, I would still entertain the motion to get it to the board, and then if you can get us what the number is, and then we can change it so we can keep moving forward with, we'll just correct the number at the board meeting on whatever this 89, if it needs to be something different. Because again, and I want to make sure everybody's clear here, you're not asking for more money.
No.
I mean, it's still the $400,000. It's just a matter of what bucket it's coming out of.
Right.
So, yeah, we're still budgeting. It's not an increase, it's not giving people raises or anything like that. We're still working with the same $400,000. It's just where that number needs to be.
Right, and there's also other situations involved in that, because I turn my budget into State Board of Elections once the budget's passed, and they can look at grants and take them at a cumulative value. So there's more consequences potentially to this than just switching something from one line to another, especially when you're coming for elections. And what I don't want is, I don't want to have an unintended consequence for a grant or something just because we're hastily moving something. I understand, and I even submitted you my new budget that has that broken out. So I totally am on board. I just want to make sure we're not shooting ourselves in the foot by doing that. So I respectfully ask that I can have a month to look into it, make sure, talk to State Board of Election, and then we can move forward next month. If you don't mind, go ahead and putting it on the agenda.
We will table this for the June.
I appreciate that.
Okay. Fair enough. Okay, moving on, review
But
of
you
the,
did vote on the IT, and you want that on the May agenda.
so we've done the IT one. Review progress, for the 2027. I received most departments' proposed 2027 budgets, yesterday. So I've been accumulating, putting it all together. I don't have anything to present, of course, tonight. I appreciate everybody getting the information in as quickly as they did. I actually reached out to Kim on a couple of things, and I mean, it's just, I'm glad that we're starting this sooner and that we can have these discussions. Anyone that hasn't, or any departments that haven't submitted their budgets, if you could get them to me here in the near future, that would be helpful. And then what I have intended on doing is then going back and sharing that spreadsheet like I did last year, so everybody can kind of follow along and see what we're working on and see how things are progressing. So that's the wish list. All right, moving on to elected official salaries, discussion and proposal for full board for consideration. Walker had an opinion for how to handle the situation with the circuit clerk. I think that people may recall that the former resolution included the circuit clerk in that resolution, and it was determined that the circuit clerk should not have been part of that resolution because that election cycle is a different cycle. So the recommendation from our state's attorney was to basically leave everything the way it is currently right now for our circuit clerk for the next 2 years, with the idea in spring of 2028 to then correct the salary accordingly for the 2028 election. I'm saying that correctly, I think.
For the 2029 through 2033 fiscal years.
Fiscal years.
It's correct as a bad verb.
So
it's to adjust
So
or whatever. But I mean,
so it's a 2029 fiscal year, but I'm thinking it takes effect December 1st of 28.
yeah.
So,
through fiscal year 30
so it'd be 6 years from,
through 32.
Well, 2 years from right now, you're going to want to do a resolution
right, for the 4-year cycle
for the circuit clerk.
Right.
Right.
One thing I forgot.
And just to follow up on that, when you say nothing changes, salary, I don't even know if do you get a stipend from that? No. Okay, so salary and health insurance stay, no changes.
Okay. And as it pertains to health insurance, it just says that it's offered. So I don't know how I think what's happened in the past is that it's just been what everybody else does, but as we're starting to realize as we go through union negotiations and so forth, there is potentially going to be multiple different situations to where different employees may be paying different amounts for the same coverage.
Okay.
So,
My point is, though, that you can't change that because you would be changing his compensation during his term.
okay.
So you can't change it, even though it's as offered. It's whatever he's been getting paid or compensated for that. You can't change it. So
Okay.
So you might want to for the future, change that language.
So do we owe him a refund for all of the increases that we've had held out of his check as we've increased to what the employees have to pay? Because we have changed what his deductions have been in the past.
Well, that's a good question. I wasn't aware of that.
Well, of course, all elected officials have gone along with whatever the payroll deducted amounts are. So it's never been a flat amount to where it's only gonna be $100 during your entire 4 years. It's changed as
Well, again, I'll have to go back and look at Mr. Bourne's memo that I shared with you.
Okay.
Because he laid it all out, and from what I read, you can't change the compensation.
And I don't disagree, and I read that same language too, but what we should do and what we have done have sometimes been two different things, so.
No, agreed, and
Yeah.
that's the problem.
Yeah, so if you could get some clarification on that, that would be greatly appreciated.
I'm not clear on what you're saying there, Derek. You're saying that more has come out of my check for insurance?
Well, if you look at when you took office, and as you will say, $100 per pay was coming out, well, then as the years have gone on, we adjust and say, well, now it's 105 or 110. If we go with the idea that we can't change the compensation, then yeah, maybe you should have stayed at $100 per, so that's, and I'm just going by, you heard it along with when I heard it, so I just asked the
I mean,
question.
when you're saying the pay has to stay the same, then I would agree with what.
Well, the magic words, and, and again, that was in Mr. Bourne's memo, and he thoroughly researched it. Compensation cannot change. Once you set the compensation, it cannot change, one way or the other.
And what, so we'll go a different direction with that, and what was just posted out there online by the clerk. Our insurance costs has continued to go up. So therefore, if your employee only coverage gross is $1,000, that's $12,000 of compensation. Now, now that the employee rate goes up to 1,100, we should probably keep you at the 1,000, so therefore the increase maybe should have come off of your check. Because if compensation is the insurance at that flat 1,000, and that's what it was at the time, and insurance rates continue to go up, we're increasing your compensation based off of the benefit that you're getting because of the increased rates. So, I know, I'm shaking my head too, but that can go both ways.
I think maybe rather than speculate though, I think Walker
He's gonna look into
needs
it.
to go back and look, because the last language I read in the resolution that we passed, that you shouldn't have been in apparently, it said, insurance would be equivalent to employee.
Right.
That's too simple, the language was more than that, but to employees.
Right.
So if you take that at face value, then what he was getting and contributing.
No, I agree. The question is, it doesn't square with what Mr. Bourne had researched. So.
Correct. And I'm going by when we say compensation based off of the spreadsheet that's out there, it shows everything to say, here's what gross compensation is, and includes Pike, Medicare, all that fun stuff in there. So if we're supposed to keep that number based off of whatever it is, then that would be increased compensation if we've continued to pay more towards the insurance. So, but we're just trying to get, you'll look into it, thank you. We'll leave it at that. But we still have on the table that we need to discuss salaries at least.
Well, compensation.
Compensation.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
No, that's what the statute says. I don't have Mr. Bourne's memo in front of me. I didn't know it was gonna devolve into a sticky wicket. But
I don't think anybody is disagreeing that compensation includes the insurance coverage.
and it includes stipends
Yes.
and whatever else you wanna throw in there.
And the resolution we've used in the past specifies salaries, stipends, and insurance.
But, but again, when we go to the broad definition of compensation per the spreadsheet, that includes IMRF contributions, that includes social security contributions. We're not putting that in this resolution. That's why I was trying to make sure that,
No, I get it, so.
well, but if you believe that we should be, then that, I mean, I'll listen to the direction
I
here.
don't know what I believe without, going back and looking at it.
Okay, well,
But I will have that before Tuesday, because it has to be done before, June 1st.
yes,
About Wednesday.
yeah, Wednesday.
Wednesday's the meeting.
I thought the meeting was Tuesday.
It's been,
Wednesday.
it's been back and I heard it Tuesday once, but then when I went and looked online and I went back through the minutes, it says Wednesday.
Well, I'll be a day early then. How about that?
So,
Better to be a day early than a day late.
But Walker, I think I misspoke during the meeting at one point and said Tuesday, so I may have confused
Well,
things.
no biggie.
But
You
like,
had-
when I looked at Natalie's minutes from the meeting where we rescheduled it, she had Wednesday.
That was
to-
Catherine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Catherine,
Yeah, I was
yeah.
gonna- yeah, cause I think I got confused too
Your
on it
office,
when I was looking at
But
it.
she's got it Wednesday.
Either way, you'll have an answer before
May
the meeting.
27th.
You asked about, could you do it on Tuesday? And
Yeah,
there
we
was
talked
more
about
no's
it.
than there was yeses. So then you went to Wednesday and that's when you finally decided on this.
We can approve it out of committee, and then if we've gotta make an adjustment before, at the board meeting, we just do it then.
well, I believe the board gave some direction at the last meeting was for finance to present something. So,
Yeah.
I make a motion to present the resolution as, and
we might wanna say what the resolution is before.
as far as how the compensation works or the amounts.
The,
Cause all I did before, for the last board meeting, was just use the previous resolution, but I left everything blank. Nothing was filled in on salary increases, nothing was filled in about the insurance. I think I did leave the stipend, that had come from the state,
right,
'cause
so.
those are set.
So what I have for this resolution is the 60,416 for 26 through 29. Adjusting the assessor to 63,916 because that position's been short $1,500 compared to the other elected officials. When you take into consideration that there's a $6,500 stipend that comes from the state for
You can't consider that.
Can't
You
consider it.
cannot consider that. You can't even talk about it.
well, I just did.
I know, it's on
Um,
camera.
It's in the resolution.
It's statute is very clear on that, that you cannot even consider that when you're looking at compensation and comparing things.
Okay, well, anyway, I was trying to get all elected officials to have a net take home of the same amount, so.
Including our stipends from the state
Including the stipends to the state, and so.
that are to be considered. So if we're looking at a net, as far as you're concerned, then we would all be at the same amount.
If I were looking at a net, as far as I'm concerned, then I would say that 3 positions get a larger stipend than 1 does. So.
Are you talking county stipend or state stipend?
State.
Yeah, we didn't put any, or I don't have any county stipends in here. So,
I didn't know we had one.
what's that?
Yeah, I get 2. I get one for IMRF and one for risk manager.
Oh, what?
So, yeah,
And you were saying, you're taking those away?
so
Who's gonna do the risk management in IMRF?
somebody in the county.
Okay.
I know it's not gonna be a board member, so.
Well, I'm just saying, so when you know, cause you have to pay somebody to do that, right? So you'll have to appoint your IMRF representative and all of that stuff.
I don't think it necessarily changes the duties, and I'm not trying to state a position on this or anything, but I don't know that at this time we're talking about changing anyone's duties.
Yeah, I know.
You're just removing money. You wanna keep the work the same, but just take the money away.
Well,
Is that,
I'll let you guys talk about that, but
is somebody wanna answer that from the board?
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah,
And that's what you intend to do? That's what you think you should do?
In light of what's going on in the county and its finances, yes.
Okay, so let me give you this scenario. So when we got rid of the unemployment insurance company that handled things, we received an unemployment claim, okay? That has taken me individually 7 hours at this point to date. The hearing is now postponed. We actually lost. We have to appeal it. It's gonna be at least 20 more hours of work for something that really has nothing to do with us. That's more work that Catherine and I have to put in to handle this, that you guys were paying somebody else to do, and you're gonna have us do the same, but decrease the money?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That's interesting.
Welcome to public service. You know.
Yeah, for sure.
The $50 a month I get for all the hours I put into gets
That's
a
not
lot,
the same.
a lot of
Yeah, it's
charges.
That's
definitely
not
not
the
the
same.
same.
Well,
I,
There's a lot of
I
duties.
had your job, Derek, don't give me that.
okay.
I had your job.
What about the money you spent for an attorney for the unions? Where you
Yeah.
at on your budget on that?
That's a great question. So when that came up, it was given to our state's attorney, and he had recused himself from taking that position of being the union attorney.
What? I beg your pardon?
You don't remember that?
No, you don't remember that.
Okay.
I offered my services to do it all, and you guys didn't want me to do it. It's November 4th. It's all on video. What are you talking about? And then when you decided to go with somebody else, which is fine, that's your decision. I said, I'm out of it. You don't want me involved. The chair made the comment that I didn't have the proper mindset for it.
I understood you said that you didn't want to be accused of having a conflict. So
No, I never said that. You're the ones who said that I had the conflict. And I explained to you that I have no conflict. I'm the attorney. You guys make the decision. You're my client. I have an ethical duty to do and negotiate what you want. And at the end of the day, you make the decision. This is a bizarre conversation, Derek. I was ready, willing, and able. I even asked anybody in there who's negotiated labor union contracts before. I raised my hand because I have before. Frank McCartney, on behalf of the county, when he was state's attorney, negotiated union contracts. There's absolutely no conflict for the state's attorney to negotiate a union contract, but you guys decided that you didn't want me to do it. So don't turn it back on me and say that, oh, we had to hire outside counsel because Walker wouldn't do it. No, that is a false, well, as Billy Martin once said, that's a false lie. But no, that's false. That is a false narrative, Derek, and you know it. I mean, this is bizarre, and you know it. And then once you made the decision, which is your decision, and I made that perfectly clear, it's your decision, fine. But you made it perfectly clear, and the chair did, that they didn't want me involved because, quote, I had said nice things about some employees, close quote. Fine. And so I said, I'm out of it. You've hired outside counsel. They're handling it. I'm out.
Okay.
That was your decision, not mine.
So the second part of the decision was that Mr. Barrowman made a motion to have you choose which firm to go with.
Correct, because you decided that you wanted to go with a firm.
Okay.
And nobody wanted to make the decision, and that's fine. I was fine with that too, because I have experience with both firms. I know what they are, and I thought that Ms. Bobar was the superior choice to Heil Royster.
Okay. So,
And I've said nothing bad about Ms. Bobar. I thought in the meetings I've been in, she's been outstanding.
excellent. So we budgeted $15,000 for outside counsel, which we had used outside counsel in the past, but it was in the budget, and we've gone over. Now, what I also understand is that what we initially potentially went over at the end of March was an inaccurate number. It appeared that we may have paid more than we were supposed to and actually got a refund.
Yeah, they double billed. So they asked if they wanted us to just credit it or if we wanted the money back, and we said we want the money back.
Okay.
Yeah.
So where we're at right now to, I think the end of April was about $18,000, and I feel that we've definitely made some headway on cleaning up the contracts that were out there, getting them more detailed, specifically as it pertains to health insurance. if you will.
What changes were made in the union contract?
You'd have to look at them to see.
We have
Okay, then what changes were made?
just the compensation and health insurance, nothing else, no other language. See, that's what we asked, and I think I asked last month. We have problems with the accrual methods in those contracts because some say calendar year, some say anniversary date, and they're awarded at different times. So we asked that if you guys were making contract changes, to please let Catherine and I know so we can send you our list of everything that doesn't match as we try to build the rules out for clocking in and out that will, like do the right thing that the software needs. And I believe the response that I received was, that's a can of worms we're not opening. We're only talking about health insurance and we're only talking about compensation. We're not touching anything else.
Okay.
Is that the case?
Well, so first of all, let's be extremely clear that I'm talking about the ambulance contract.
Right, and we didn't see anything else that changed outside of compensation and insurance.
I don't know that there was anything, well, there must have been numerous things that were discussed, but my point is that the contract had some very ambiguous language as it pertains to benefits, and that's what's actually coming up right now with elected officials and how we determine what health insurance really is or isn't, and what it really costs and what it doesn't cost. As an example, in the sheriff's or the FOP contract, we're still pointing back to 2014 numbers and benefits, which haven't been done. There's nothing been addressed about HSA, so now we're just kind of basically going on with past practice. So, which kind of just throws the whole contract out if you think of it that way, because now we have to continue doing what we've always done, but wasn't what really was in the contract. So why the county chose to continue to do stuff contrary to what the contract said, I don't understand. But what we've done now, at least for the ambulance department, is we've got a very detailed contract that explicitly talks about those type of benefits, what's covered, how much is covered, and what's supposed to be followed. I forwarded an email to our attorney, which I think was actually questioned here recently, to say these concerns of yours that the clerk's office was brought up about how this might have an effect on what the contract may do, or what the contract may do for what your concern was, and I didn't receive a response back. So therefore,
Right, because they're not our counsel, yeah.
Really? You don't think we hired them as our counsel to be for the FOP contract negotiation?
Not with my questions, no.
Okay. So the question that we have to ask the attorney that's negotiating on our behalf and how the language in the contract is not the counsel we should be talking to.
I haven't seen your email. I need to see your email.
Can we just stop, please?
No, these are
first
questions
of all,
that we have.
I understand, but first of all, I would be a little hesitant to say the only thing we changed in the ambulance contract was insurance and compensation, if that's the things that you said.
I don't believe they were, but yeah, that's.
I don't think that's accurate.
Okay.
And I just want to correct that because, you stated that as if you thought it was a fact. We're done with the ambulance contract. We're in the middle of negotiations with the FOP. We actually had a Zoom meeting just today. And I really don't think it's appropriate for us to be talking about what we might change or what we might not do or the status of the contract. And it doesn't have any bearing on this issue. So can we just go back to the elected salary?
Right, so just really quick, just for clarification, I need to look, if there is changes in the union contract, because we're the ones that program it into Paycom, I need to know what those changes are, because the only thing I saw was compensation and insurance. So if there are different if there's different changes, I probably skipped them, and that's possible. Please let me know what they are, so I can go look at them to make sure that the rules that we set up in our system match what the contract says. That's what we do. We set the accruals in there, we build it based upon what the rules of the contract are, and the only ones that I saw were those two.
And not everything is about payroll. So, I'm just saying, I can't come up with an example right now, but in the back of my mind, I think there were some other things.
I'd like to take that a step further, that I'm not an attorney, therefore I don't believe I should be interpreting what the union contract is.
And you don't have to, just tell me what sections to look at. Just help me out and let me know where to look for the changes, because you guys did it, and I respect that. I just need to know where to look if I'm overlooking them. I would greatly appreciate it.
You should have received
I didn't, and I only saw changes in compensation and salaries, and that's what we're saying is different.
Okay.
So just let me know, please, where the other ones are, and that way I can at least make sure I'm correct. That's all I'm asking.
I'm just saying, when Sam met with the board members before we voted on it, I thought you received a red line version, but.
No, I did not. Yeah, I did not. But what Bryce is saying is, the board made the decision to spend $20,000+ on a labor attorney when we had one for free that we could have used.
And I personally think it was money well spent.
Okay.
I think she's doing a wonderful job.
But you don't want to pay the elected officials.
And that's fine.
Yeah,
And I'm just on record that you do what you want to do, but don't spin it that you wouldn't have gotten that result if you had used me, okay? Because that's
I don't believe I said that.
Well, that's the
I'm just saying it
implication
was
that I'm
money
hearing.
well spent.
That's the implication that I'm hearing.
And I do feel, from what Derek said before, my memory, and maybe I need to go back and look or read the summary, but my memory is you took exception when I suggested you might have a conflict.
Yes, I did take exception.
And that you refused to do it.
No, that is not, no. It was after you made the decision to go with outside counsel that I said, I'm out. You've hired outside counsel, I'm not gonna muddy the waters. Leave me out of it. And you have. And so that's fine, that's your decision. But, since we got it started, just for the record, the ambulance union was going to, employees were going to leave their union in July of last year. And then the board started making changes at the last minute on health insurance, and they decided to stay with the union. And that's water over the dam, and I put up a lot of informations to you, which I'm not going to talk about because that's between us as attorneys and clients, but it could have been a completely different result, but
that's their decision. What they want to do.
Yeah, and they reacted to decisions that you guys made. But it's done, it's over with, and it's in the books, and I wish the best of luck to you on the FOP contract.
Okay. My point is, you guys are you're already over and you haven't even done the sheriff's side, and you want to take stipend away from her and remain the duties that she has to do. And you think that's okay? You think that's right?
I don't know why you're connecting the two. I mean, the board voted not to accept a bid that would have saved us, what, $90,000 on property and casualty insurance.
He said the condition that the county's in and the way the money is, you think that has no bearing on what you've done there. But you want to take it away from her and keep the duties in place. Is there a statute that says she has to do it?
Can we go back to the discussion about the resolution? Because I do feel that the board asked the finance committee to come in with a proposal. And maybe you guys feel you can't do that, but I think we should focus on that.
That's a proposal I have, so.
That's why I spoke up when you're trying to cut her throat. That's why I spoke up. To me, that's you're cutting her throat.
What's
financially. Why do you
Yeah.
think you can take that money away and expect her to do it?
That's part of her job.
No, it
No,
isn't.
it's not.
No, it's not.
It's not.
No.
It's not.
Yes, it is.
No, it
She
isn't.
does it now, and
Well, that
on the
doesn't
same,
mean she gets paid to do it now.
the same premise that we can't change compensation during an elected term is we can't change the job duties either.
Okay, so you're gonna set that on the next board meeting, which is
Yeah.
Wednesday night. And if you make the decision to not pay her, who's gonna do it?
That's my question.
Okay, if it's not her job,
It's not.
then she needs to be doing that other than hours the county clerk is open. She needs to do it outside of that time frame.
I don't have hours, Dawn.
Huh?
I don't have hours.
Elected officials don't have hours, Don.
Okay, well, the time frame that the office was open, that's what I was going at.
Yeah, it doesn't work like that. But if you looked at what I sent you guys, I sent you all of the UCCI resolutions for the counties that passed the salaries, because this is what they're doing. Without raises, we're gonna be second to last in the state of Illinois. We have sixth highest square miles, which means that our recording department goes crazy. I mean, it makes 0 sense, and we're gonna be so far low. The county that's gonna beat us has like 200 square miles and 4,000 people. And you want morale to stay the same, and you want people to work as hard or harder for cutting wages?
What about the morale of the taxpayers?
It's elected officials' fault?
Derek, I'm a taxpayer. My wife and I pay $6,000 a year in taxes, okay? And 16% of it goes to the county. The rest of it goes to the schools, okay? So, yeah, the taxpayers count. I count. But you have mandatory things that are required to be done by the county. And the county, and I mentioned this in my proposal that I sent to you, the county is spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on non-discretionary spending that you do not have to do. You are not obligated by any law in the state of Illinois that you have to do it. And everybody hates me because everybody likes animals. But the animal control budget, I'm sorry, Dave, is big. And the county has absolutely 0 statutory obligation to run that function. And so you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on non-discretionary spending, and then you want to nickel and dime all the county offices on mandatory functions?
No, not really. I agree with you on that, animals.
I mean, this is what Bryce and Natalie and I and the sheriff, for that matter, have talked about. And I've said it ad nauseum, and every time I presented my budget and explained our position on what we're trying to do. I mean, not only are we doing a public safety function, but we're doing public functions like property records, vital records, elections that are absolutely mandatory. And if we do not do them, we get in big trouble with the state of Illinois. And that is the difficult job of being a county board member in local government, because you have to balance where you get the money, and it's always going to be a big chunk from the taxpayers. But as I point out in my budget doesn't cost the taxpayers hardly a dime, because there's other revenue sources out there from the state of Illinois and people using fees to pay for stuff that pays for a lot of the stuff that we do. That covers Bryce's office, that covers my office. So, we can get into this argument of, well, we have to cut, down to the bare bone because, welcome to local government and we just don't have the money, boo hoo hoo. That's a false narrative. That's a false narrative, because you talk about magic wands. Oh, if you can find a revenue source, well, I can find an expense source that can go away, poof. Because you don't have to do it.
I would recommend you talk to the chair of the Ag Department, or the Ag Committee, and express these concerns.
I have. I recommend that you guys talk it over when you get to budget time. But you're hitting,
We are meeting tomorrow, by the way, the Ag Committee's meeting tomorrow at 2:30.
Okay, unfortunately, I'll be in court. Unfortunately, I'll be in court.
And I do statutorily believe we have to handle, which I don't understand all of it, but we have to do an animal control portion, but not the animal shelter.
No, we don't even have to do that.
Yes,
Well, I'll have
we
to
do, it's a state law for the cats.
I forwarded the
for one
statute to
thing.
Mr. Barrowman and Lotus regarding the statute that's out there for animal control.
Well, it's de minimis, and I know that when I was on the board and
Okay.
Ms., what's her name, did a fantastic job, and she did it
So,
on a shoestring.
now, do we entertain forwarding this to the board or what?
Can I bring up a case scenario? I'll use Don as an example. You were a rural carrier for years and years and years. They were talking about compensation in that. You were basically paid by house or however distance you went, and they timed you. What would have happened if they would have built a big subdivision on your route that would have added, let's say, 150 new homes? Do you think you should have been compensated with more pay because you had more deliveries to make, or should it have been kept the same? That's the same thing you're doing with Natalie and the rest.
Let me correct something. I was a city carrier, not a rural carrier.
What's that?
I was a city carrier.
Okay, well, I mean, let's look at rural carriers then.
Yeah.
That those, you think those people should be compensated for the extra mail deliveries? I mean, they're
I can
doing
answer
extra
that.
work, but you're saying they should be paid the same as what they were doing when they had, let's say, 300 stops versus 100 or 450 stops. You're gonna pay them the same, but they're doing this because it's their job? I mean, it's just kind of weird thinking.
I can throw something on top of that. Thanks for bringing that up, Dave. Whenever the Amazon was being delivered by the post office, they added all these Amazon deliveries. The post office had to run 2 shifts. You were only allowed to run so many hours.
Right.
So you didn't do it for free.
The United States Post Office is a horrible example.
It really is. It really is.
We get it. It's not fair. Nobody wants to do work they're not paid for.
It's not about not fair, it's about your out product too. And really, the problem is you're funding the position and not the person. We could all leave midterm, and good luck trying to find somebody that wants to put up with all of this and know accounting and know all of this stuff for what they would make less than half of your employees are currently making in the county. That's what we're getting at. There has to, and nobody's sitting here trying to get rich off taxpayers. However, there are standards that are set in various counties. There's standards.
What's your IMRF and what's the stipend amount?
So the IMRF stipend that I get is $2,000, and the stipend for risk manager is $5,600, I think. And that's because we take care of all the insurance claims. We're taking care of all the unemployment claims. We do all of that extra stuff that you would be paying people a lot of money that's not in our job description to handle.
You're basically saying that we're taking $7,600 in stipends out of this resolution that would normally go to the county clerk.
Yeah. That's been there since the 70s.
What I have an issue with is, as you just pointed out, what happens if you leave midterm?
The person behind me gets that stays. You set the salary for the position, not the person.
Right.
Right.
I would prefer to say, well, maybe that $7,000 could be used to pay a staff person that's doing the work. And then that way, if you leave, then that staff person would still be doing the work.
And you guys can totally do that. That's completely up to you.
Okay,
If you look at the resolutions that were sent, a lot of county clerks are the IMRF rep, and it's built in that they get stipends for that reason, because your county clerk's guaranteed for 4 years. That employee that sits there is not. If you look at turnover rates, you're not guaranteed that. At least for an elected official, they choose to leave at a 4-year term if they leave early. So because you have to train, you have to know a lot of information on that, and you need the longevity of it. So yeah, you could pay a staff member, but they don't have any job security.
How much does it cost to have them trained?
Exactly, that's the kicker, a lot.
While they're thinking about that, are you guys coming in with a request for the other parts?
The parts are what?
The resolution.
For sure, I think I sent it to you guys, and so what I did, if you look at the handout that I gave you guys, it's actually really interesting. There's a formula. I took every county that passed a resolution in the state of Illinois, what they pay their clerks. I took it by land size, and I took it by population. and you can plug those numbers into a nice little formula, and it tells you, based upon that formula and what other counties are doing and what's supported by the state, is what our salaries should be. Now, I'm not asking for our
These that
salaries.
you reported, the ones that.
Those
you
are
believe
those are
passed-
approved. Those are passed and approved.
So the others are either leaving it the way, are not giving any increases and leaving it the way it
No,
was?
everybody's getting an increase. Well, as far as I'm aware, everybody's getting an increase at this point in time. They're voting on it the May meeting in a lot of these other jurisdictions that aren't on here. I am unaware of any other district that is not getting a raise.
Okay, so the first one on the list, county clerk, Brown County, salary 55,000.
Yes,
Okay,
and they're half our size in population, and they're a third of our size land mass. So the work is drastically lower.
I tell you, the court system's a lot less.
Yeah, exactly. See, when you have land mass, you have more responsibility. That's why you go off parcel counts and land mass. That usually can gauge where you're at. I mean, look at there was one that stood out that blew my mind. If you look at Mason County, their population's less than ours, 12,300. They're 540. Their county clerk and treasurer are making 8,000, 86,000, 91. We're not asking for that. We are not asking for that by any means. But we are asking to not be the lowest paid when we're one of the highest landmass counties in the state.
okay.
How many of those other counties have the same audit problems we have?
Or some.
Yeah, there's more than you
There's
think. But Donna's
more
back
than you think,
behind.
yeah. I can't give you a number, but I can tell you, I just came from a conference.
And what's their poverty level? Our poverty level
About the
here is
same.
really high, 15%, highest in the, almost third highest in the state for poverty people.
I think we rank 11th, but we're low.
Yeah.
And do you want to put your elected officials in the poverty level?
No, but I bet there's some poverty level people that would like to have their jobs.
And are they qualified?
I don't know.
They're welcome to run.
Yeah, anybody can run.
I mean, these have these both
All they
had
gotta do is
opposed.
quit, and then we gotta force it, right? I mean, what are our options? Seriously, what are our options? Everybody's sitting here saying, more money, give me money. We have problems, financial problems. We're not bringing in enough money. We're spending more money than we're bringing in, and everybody wants more money. I don't hear a fix. I hear a lot of whining and crying.
Are you looking at long-term?
Yeah, raise taxes on poor people. Awesome. That's awesome.
That's the fix.
Yeah, hello, Governor Pritzker. Tax me to have fun.
So what, so the, all right, getting back, the IMRF and the risk management is county stipends, those aren't
Yes.
state stipends.
Those are county stipends.
Those are actually both paid out of different funds too. They're not a general fund expense.
They're paid out of taxpayer rate to produce funds.
Yeah, they are.
Risk manager is the only one that's not general fund. IMRF is general fund, Fund 7.
Yeah.
But what,
But what you would pay somebody else, that's what we're just getting at, is somebody has to do the work, right? And so what you would pay, it's just like that unemployment insurance. We're probably gonna get stuck with an unemployment bill that if we would have kept them, we wouldn't have, and it's a high paying bill. So that, there's a lot of things behind it. You gotta pay for the work. It doesn't just come for free. And I'm not saying I'm not gonna do it. That's not what I'm saying at all, because I first and foremost ran for this position, and I will do everything in my power for it. But what I'm saying is, the next person that comes behind me doesn't have to do it. And then you're gonna be stuck paying somebody to do it. And I'm asking you, nobody works for free. We all know that. And you guys are, most of you are on the labor committee, you guys have negotiated fairly decent compensation packages, you're on the verge of doing it again. You gotta keep everything in line, or you're gonna have employees outmake the elected officials, and you're not gonna have anybody who wants to do the job because they don't wanna put up with the crap, and I don't blame them.
I got several people I have to deal with that make more money than me. It's
Yeah.
not always fun, but.
No, but they don't want to put up with this kind of stuff, because we don't want to put up with this kind of stuff, right?
Well,
It's
I
not
don't
pleasant. We're
wanna put
fighting
up
through
with
it,
this.
trying to work together, but it has to come with a trade-off at some point. And unfortunately, I do feel like a lot of these decisions are political, and I think that Rita said it best last week, keep emotions out of it. And you can't say that the work hasn't been getting done for the risk manager and the IMRF, because that's not a problem.
Can I Let me just clarify though,
Sure.
I'm just asking, because I've just been reading this, while everyone's talking, but do I understand that what you guys are maybe requesting is about a 20% raise
No.
in the first year?
She was just giving an example.
No.
And this is just all hypothetical.
It's just all
Well,
hypothetical.
Right now, it's 60,000, right?
Yeah.
The salary.
Yes.
This is just a comparison to the formula that she ran and what other counties are doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then it says a salary range of 70 to 74,000, small yearly cost of living adjustments afterwards. I mean, moving from
That's her
60
suggestion.
to.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what, so that would be a 20% raise, right?
How's,
No.
no.
15,000 would be 25, yeah. So it's close.
I mean, Adams County is running a deficit in their general fund. They just moved their county clerk from 72,000 to 109,000. And they moved their treasurer from, 50-some thousand to 80-some thousand. Now granted, they're bigger than we are. Makes perfect sense. Nobody's asking for that. But the problem is the wages for the elected officials have not kept up to market, and there's a problem with that.
I'm just trying to understand,
I-
what are you asking for?
We have not formally asked for anything, because we weren't asked to ask for anything. I was just trying to break the numbers down to where they were, how you could understand them based upon property size and back them with fact. I know that numbers make sense, and I was just trying to give you guys as much fact as possible. I don't think anybody here is asking for anything. None of us are asking for anything significant by any means. We're just asking not to lose money. And quite frankly, we haven't kept up with the CPI the past 4 years even. So we've actually gone backwards. And if we get zero raise, our salaries are actually going to be $53,000 by the end in what it would be actual spending.
What do you think the general employees have gotten, or if you take, set aside the union folks?
Like on average, I think usually we ask for about 2.5 a year, 2.5, 3 a year. It just depends. I think we all try to keep it around the CPI index.
Percentage?
Yeah.
But that's not been what's been paid.
No.
It's been asked, but it's not been what's been paid. Obviously, last year was none.
Yeah.
If the cost of living is 2.5% and there is no raise, which is your decision, that means we've taken a 2.5% cut. Because everything we buy, I mean, gas is not a good example. It's shot up and it'll shoot down. It's ugly right now. Groceries, electricity, everything what we're dealing with is going up.
Yeah, that's the same argument everybody else is gonna make too, and their expenses go up. I mean, it's every.
I hate that, I'm not saying advocating for tax increases, but I think the expense should be spread across the taxpayers, spread out, small amount.
Because what'll happen in 4 years, they'll have to go big.
$6,000 is doing
Yeah.
the job and doing a good job.
Small amount. $1,000 for me, just.
Cost, well, I know, cost of living.
I'm making
You think we should take a
$40,000
cost of living cut? That's what your
I think
opinion is to
everybody
help
should
your
stay the
tax
same.
bill?
No, I think everybody should just stay the same right now. I'm making $40,000.
Okay, so you're
a
advocating
year
she stay the
less.
same.
Right now, we're in an emergency. What do we do? I mean, if I don't take cuts for my business, I go under.
Well, this isn't a business. This isn't a business. This is government. And we have services just like a business. But if you start
You
cutting
don't have to
services,
live within your budget. Right. If your budget goes up, then you have to cut out something else.
so should be on the back of the employees that are doing a good job.
Like I said,
And not
I'm
getting
making
raises.
$40,000 a year less. My taxes have gone up to over $3,000.
Mostly the school.
Right. I acknowledge that.
Big
but-
percentage of that, just like what was perceived, I think my tax bill was 12.
84% is, 16% is the county.
So you're trying to whittle a few thousand here to save 12% of your. I mean, everybody understands cost. If you say there's never going to be any cost of living, then it makes sense to keep it the same. But there's always going to be a cost of living. Your electricity bill's gone up, water bill probably, gas bill, whatever, utilities.
Everything's gone up.
You can't tell the utility, hey, I don't want to pay that.
You can't tell the tax guy that either.
So if you guys don't mind, I'm gonna move on, because I don't know that we're gonna get.
So what did you
anywhere.
decide? Off the board.
I don't know that we've decided anything as much as I have a resolution to propose that we get to the full board, and then the full board can, this discussion can be continued there.
But that's what
because-
we did last time, and they asked for the finance committee to make a proposal.
Well, that's what I proposed. There's my proposal.
That you're leaving,
Everything the way it is.
The way it is, or you're cutting,
No, the way it is in my proposal there, that the salaries would stay, at where they are currently for the next 4 years.
okay,
That the stipends would be taken out for IMRF and risk management. And apparently, even though I wasn't supposed to give the assessor a raise, I guess the part that I'm confused about is it's said time and time again, the board is supposed to set the budget. The board is supposed to be the ones that handle the money. The board is the one that comes up with the dollar amounts. So therefore, these are our dollar amounts, or at least this is my dollar amount. I've understood that there's actually some talk out there in the public that says the board's not being stern enough, that the board's sitting there and buckling, that it's really the board's fault that we're in this position that we are. Okay, so be it. This is my answer. I'm trying to contain cost. I completely agree with Mr. Filbert to say there are other places to contain cost, but this is a 4-year commitment, and if I knew what was gonna happen in the next year or two, I would be more than willing to say, let's adjust something down the road, but I can't. This is what the resolution, this is what the statute says. We have to make a 4-year commitment on here's what people are gonna get paid. I don't wanna commit this county, and it is just me, I don't wanna commit this county to expenses down the road when I cannot guarantee what the revenues are gonna be.
don't you do that with union negotiations?
Yep.
Okay.
Are you joining a union then?
No, I'm just asking.
Okay.
You do commit,
Oh, I know.
okay,
And
I just thought you said you didn't wanna do that,
I
but you
don't
are
want
doing
to.
it, okay,
I don't wanna have to commit to it, but I'm forced in situations that I have to.
okay.
So, I've been, and then the second part that I'll bring up, which has been blatantly pointed out to me before, is that we are not Adams County. We are not any other county in this state. So to continue to compare our county to other counties and say, here's what they get paid, or here's the problems they're having compared to ours and so forth, we are in our own little bubble here that we have to try and fix our own problems. And so I would love to be able to say, here's what somebody's doing over so-and-so, but then I'm told, well, that's not how we have to do it. Okay, fine. So we have our own rules that we're trying to establish and follow. Things continue to change, and we're just trying to learn as we go.
So to learn as you go, though, don't you think that it's critical to look at what other counties do? Because other counties usually have more resources than us. So you can learn by example from what other counties do to try to save some of those headaches going forward that we might face by situations that we're not used to, right?
It's a valid point,
Yeah.
but then it's difficult for me to say that they do have the other resources to be able to do that, and we just don't. We don't have the
Yet to
resources
be
to
determined,
have
because
a
we
full
don't
time.
have a deficit number, right?
Seriously?
Yeah,
You still don't believe this county has
I
any
just want a
type of a
number.
deficit?
I just would like a number
No, I
within
would
a
like
10%.
you to give me the number. You have
I'm
the,
not the finance chair.
but you can't do math.
I'm not the treasurer. No, I can't. Assume I can't. Assume I can't, and assume I really just want assistance and I want to know what the deficit is. Because you're talking about taking food off our table, essentially. This is exactly what you're doing, which is fine. You can do that. But you're talking about that by saying there's a deficit, but nobody can tell us what the number is. And the last audit we had showed a surplus.
The 2022 audit showed a surplus.
Yeah.
Based off of what?
The numbers that we gave them?
Right, so the 2022 audit showed that we missed out on $300,000 of taxes not being collected.
And we still had a surplus. So the
Why?
taxpayers
Why?
should thank us for
Because
that,
we had a
Eric.
$3 million ARPA funds that isn't extra revenue, but just cash.
We had a surplus. I'm just saying, if there's a deficit, I'd like to know the number. Because at this point, it's starting to feel very political.
It's not political, it's math.
Then what's the deficit number?
It is whatever you calculate it to be.
Okay.
What, all right.
I'm sorry.
One thing
I'm
that
sorry.
I keep going back to, and maybe I'm being too simplistic, but we cashed out $750,000 in CDs to pay our bills. And that's one-time money we're not gonna have next year.
Yeah.
So without reductions, I feel like at least we're going into a deficit with 750,000.
And you think the way to reduce it is by mandatory offices, not the optional offices? You think that's the way to fix it?
No.
We're just now working on the budget. I haven't even got to the point to where we're talking about the sheriff has already reduced about $150,000 of his budget between not rehiring a couple people, by renegotiating some of the medical part, that one that you complain about. So we have departments that are working on trying to get the budget down, or the expenditures down, which is great, okay? This is yet another thing that we can at least hold our expenses at.
Okay.
So.
Actually reduce them, right?
Yeah,
by $28,000, because you're taking away $7,000 a year essentially from one elected official.
7,000, but I still believe that 7,000 is probably gonna be spent back because I don't know if the job's gonna get done or not, so we have to pay somebody to do it.
So why wouldn't you pay the same person that's gonna do it? I don't understand. Why would you want to train somebody new? I don't get this logic.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, I'm sorry, yeah, I will.
So, moving on, the,
Are you
financial.
moving off this?
Well, I haven't heard anybody want to forward this on, so I don't know what to do.
I don't know. I'd make a motion that we approve it with the $60,416 salaries. The same for the supervisor assessments, and then we include the IMRF stipend can we set the stipends? Do we have to have a certain amount set for the
Well,
stipend?
we can do anything.
Yeah, so I would say we do the IMRF stipend at $1,500 or whatever it was set at, and we do the risk management at,
What is it, Natalie?
we do the risk management.
10,000
part at-
each.
Yeah,
10,000 each.
yeah, we do the 1,500.
No, so the IMRF is 2,000 and the risk manager is 6,500, and that's split between myself and Catherine because we have to have two of us that go through all of the insurance. Like, we're the ones that handle all that.
Explain that, what all of the talk, I get IMRF, you go through some training, what
Yes.
risk management training are you going through?
We don't do training, we handle the claims. So the claims come through us, we're the ones on the portal that are filing everything. That's what we follow. So we do the unemployment now. Yeah, we will fight all the unemployment claims. So property casualty, anytime there's damage, we work with the adjusters.
So like I said, I would make a motion that we do it at everything at this amount. IMRF.
Yes,
One other
Nicole.
question.
Doing the
before you get
60,000 would actually take me down, because I think I make 61 something. And that was to make up for the non-talkative thing that you said we could talk about, in quotes.
Right,
Yeah, her salary's a little
were
above.
we leaving her at that, or are you saying drop her down to that too? Because she actually would take a pay cut. if
I
we
thought,
drop-
I thought she was above this, since that's what we're.
Since the stipend.
So the assessor is down.
But what gets me is we don't have a starting salary
The starting salary of what?
for any
It was zero.
elected official.
It was, zero. It's based upon the job, Don. So it's not for any individual. So if Scott were to leave, the person that's the treasurer would get the treasurer's salary. It doesn't drop down by years of experience. You fund the position.
No,
So
I'm saying,
the starting salary was zero, literally. And then statute came in the 70s,
Right.
and I think the statute set
says that if someone
6,500 maybe, or 7,000 in 73 maybe for the rolls.
And it was 3% a year.
And it was 3%, 3% a year increase.
whoever takes over, someone quits midterm.
Yeah.
Then whoever takes over.
Yeah.
Gets that current salary.
Yes.
But what I'm saying is, we don't have a starting salary for any position. If someone new comes in,
Mhm.
we're starting them way up here where they're at now. I know you're not saying it's way up there, but, we're starting them there.
Yeah.
Instead of maybe, if you work at a business, you're gonna start in less than what someone
Yeah,
that's been there a
but
while.
Don, a business doesn't have a state law that says you gotta do it this way.
Right, yeah.
So don't fight the problem. It is what it is.
Okay, well, we do have one new one coming.
Well,
in,
just,
so.
just to add to that, I've been trying for 5 months to hire a bookkeeper to stay within my budget, to stay within what I'm allowed. And I finally have somebody lined up that's gonna start. Would've been nice, trying to hire a bookkeeper for what I'm having to pay. I don't see where you guys think going down's the right idea.
No, I'm just asking.
I don't think
We
that's
don't
what
have
you're
anything
wanting
that
is to
says-
go down.
Is
What
it
you're
is a
saying.
starting salary for anybody new coming in?
You just said they should start down here and work their way up. What's what you just said? Did I misunderstand?
But
I'm
not
trying to work
talking about
within
it.
the budget that I have, and as you know, all of you know, I've been within my budget. Good job, Bryce. I've never heard that.
I told you good job at a board meeting in there.
Okay,
I told you I
sorry.
appreciated that.
One exception. All the grant money that I got,
And
you
I-
guys squandered
and
that.
I commented about, thank you on that.
Well, I didn't hear it. Thank you.
Okay.
Good to hear
You're
one.
Sitting right there.
Well, that's, I mean, yeah, good, exactly. My grants were coming in at $6,500 for all of the 2000s a year. That's all you guys got in grants. I'm over $500,000 in tertiary grants just in the 7.5 years I've been here. That's more than you guys have paid me. And the next person might not write grants. And then you're stuck not getting that. That's what we're saying. We've done a lot. Our offices pay for ourselves. Our revenues bring in the money. And I feel like we just keep getting penalized.
I'm sorry I brought it up.
You don't know what we do, and you don't know what we go through to do
I
it.
go with that, Lance.
And the
If-
professional
I don't
level
know
that these
what
officers
numbers
do.
you're looking at, but
Gonna change the subject.
we have the current salaries and the current stipends. Is your proposal that we just keep the current salaries and stipends?
Because that's the current salary?
That's the current salary.
And what I did for the assessors was because that wasn't equal to the others when you put it all
I feel like we're
together.
arguing over, I mean, that's not gonna correct our budget at the end of in 4 years.
Grain of salt in the ocean.
Couple grains of salt, but it's not,
2 grains.
it's not the thing.
3
that's
to
gonna-
5 grains.
It's not gonna make the change. I would make the motion, we just leave it where it's currently at for the next 4 years. It's already sucks, like it,
I'll second.
so, yeah, reduce that
Say
to
word it.
So drop her down to the, what she was.
what she was, and then, cause we can't talk about, we can't,
Wait a minute, that is what she was. wasn't
we can't calculate in anything from the state,
it? Is that what she was anyway?
I don't understand that logic. We can talk about whatever number we wanna talk about.
Can I just say that
the stipends.
for Brown and Schuyler County, their assessor took that to the board because they don't get anything, and they actually added that 60 whatever to her salary for each county.
The 6,500,
Right.
you're not supposed to talk about that.
I know, but
So,
they did that for her.
And that's what that did.
well, this, her compensate, you can use that word. This evens it up between, that's a $3,000 stipend, that's a $6,500 stipend that we're not supposed to talk about.
Right.
So this is just adding the additional $3,500.
You have
to
for
give
that,
all elected
for
officials
my
three.
state one, you have to meet all these requirements, and I can't tell you the last time it met requirements. I can't tell you the last time this position has gotten that state one. It's been like 10.
Oh, wait, you don't even get the 3,000?
No, don't qualify. You have to meet
You have to
certain
qualify. Yes.
requirements with like when you turn in your state abstracts, and because everything is selling for in crazy amounts, everything is so off whack that I can't tell you
So it's
a
a
county that has
conditional
gotten
stipend.
that one.
Yep.
I wonder if we can do conditional stipends. That would be
Yeah,
interesting.
I can't tell you, and it's out of this position's control. It's just based off of where everything else is selling, and I can't tell you a supervisor of assessments that's gotten that stipend, and I don't even know.
Okay.
What do you want that? Present that to the board?
Just put that out there. I'm just saying, it's not an automatic one. I didn't realize that either, but.
Can I ask while they're thinking, cause you weren't at our last meeting, I don't think. Yeah.
Stipends in the-
Somebody asked
That's
what
the motion I'll
happens
make.
if we don't pass a resolution. And I don't wanna speak for him, but I think Jim, my impression was Jim spoke up and said it would stay the equivalent of what it is now this year. Does that sound right to you, or?
Yeah, I
Could-
mean, that sounds right.
I thought so too, but, maybe you could have a chance to look at it before Wednesday?
Well, I'm looking at it anyway.
Right. I don't know.
And I'll have it by Tuesday.
I'll make a motion that we approve the resolution with the salaries froze, including the IMRF and the risk management stipends at their current rate, and then approve the supervisor assessments at the proposed amount on here of $63,960.
Alright. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Well, aye.
The only reason I did it is because we've still got so many problems to fix on the back end. Like, we gotta hold fast where we're at right now. Like, I get it, you guys. I mean, I'm already told I'm not gonna be getting that as much of a raise I've got in the past in my job too. It's not like it's an isolated issue, so we're gonna work. Walker, I agree 1,000% that we spend way too much money on other areas that we don't need to, so.
No, and I finished getting my degree and nobody wanted to pay any more on their insurance premiums, so I didn't get to make any money either, so. I mean, it just, things happen.
Well, I wish the insurance rate would stay the same.
Or we can get lower premiums.
That would be good, that would be good.
Yeah,
Cost of living is just a reality.
Right.
It's
all right.
unfortunate.
All right.
So then, moving on, I think we all voted all those in favor. Okay, yeah. So we've passed this to go forward to the full board. All right, financial policy update. I sent out a questionnaire to both the clerk's office and the treasurer's office to answer some questions on responsibilities that they saw within their departments. And so I'm taking that information and digesting that and trying to figure that into our financial policies. So things are proceeding forward with that. Update on CIC Paycom payroll.
So I will comment on that. I was aware that Mr. Burbridge said that I didn't give Scott some, I think, was it the reports or was it the file, Mike, that the file?
When I went in there on the 7th, they said that they hadn't got the report.
Okay,
yet.
so they
To
get
pull the information off of.
They get the reports before payroll's even processed. So I have to give what's called a chart of claims. So when I pay something, I give the whole report. So that's what Don and I were talking about extracting the information off that
Right,
last
so those
page.
numbers are in there.
Yes, yeah.
And they're visible. You could pull that sheet out and show it to me and show me those numbers right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So those are given every payroll, and then so that's
How long after the payroll before they send them the numbers?
before payroll's even processed. That's how they know how much to transfer. They wouldn't be able to transfer money if they didn't know how much the payroll was and what the Social Security was and the IMRF and the gross wages from each department. It's about a 48-page report.
So when we were sitting there that day, you said you would send them a monthly report.
The GL file.
No,
Yeah.
I said
Balance
that's what I'm
file.
working on is the GL file, trying to balance it. But right now, we can't cross funds. That's where we're stuck. I worked on it for about 4 hours today, and I worked on it all weekend. Trying to figure out exactly where we can cross them, because if I do it regular, you're gonna have about 40 different journal entries to make to move money. And I know that's gonna throw you off even worse than just putting it into a clearing account.
But isn't that, don't you send it to them in an Excel sheet?
No, they won't take they were told they didn't want it electronically. Yeah,
That's not
Catherine,
why Catherine-
so we were trying to cut back on paper, and Catherine talked to Carrie about 8 months ago to see if she could email her the payroll report, and she said absolutely not, she wanted it in paper, and I just assumed they wanted to keep it that way, so that's why we handed
That's
over it.
ridiculous.
That's not an Excel spreadsheet.
I can put it in an Excel spreadsheet if you say you want it.
You were gonna work on a separate GL file that will balance by fund.
That's the
Right,
upload.
that's what I understood.
That's
That's
the
what I-
upload.
Because
That
then
is-
when I asked her, that, and to get the process down, that you were gonna send her something that she could look at, like an Excel spreadsheet, and then just straight upload it into CIC.
Oh, no, the upload is what we can't do because the general ledger.
You're not going to, they're going to.
I'm the one building it, like the payroll's building it, so you wouldn't have to extract anything, you would just upload. So what they were gonna have to do, what we discussed was, they have to look at the net pay, and then they get that the very last page of the payroll summary. That net pay is then debited out of the clearing account. I credit the clearing account. They have to debit it and credit cash, because that cash goes out the door. That's your double entry.
That sounds like gobbledygook to me.
I am more than, I understand, it's taken me a long time to try to figure out. I know that you had issues with my attendance, so if you want to, I can schedule an appointment with you, and I can show you what it looks like to me, because sometimes two heads are better than one.
My schedule isn't really, I can't really set an appointment. I like to walk into my public official and say, hey, what's up?
I know, unfortunately, I have conferences, I was in Chicago for elections, we have a lot going on, and so I wanna make sure that I can answer questions for you whenever you need them. You have my cell number?
Yep, I don't need your cell number.
Well, I just want to make sure if you have questions, you can feel free to reach out. So
I
it's
feel free
okay.
to reach out.
Okay.
Like I said, that, you guys are talking about money, wanting more money, trying to see something here. What am I seeing? I'm seeing, can't be done. I'm not going to do this. We sat down in a meeting. I asked the girl. She showed me Derek's spreadsheet. It was highlighted in colors. I asked her straight up. So you're gonna take the information and use that spreadsheet to put it in there, and everybody agreed yes, and it's not done.
I don't know why, because the report is the same. All the information they need to put in Derek's spreadsheet is in the report that they get before payroll's even processed.
Okay, what happened to the phone conference that was gonna happen when you sat down and did it all at one time?
What phone conference?
You were gonna sit
GL
down.
file before we set up the phone conference.
Yep.
With Liz.
With another party, with CAC, not me.
Right, all three of you were gonna get on a phone conference. You, in case something happened wrong, you were gonna be on the phone call to make the difference. That's exactly what you said.
Yes, and
That is exactly what you said.
but nobody's reached out to the third party, is what he's saying. So we haven't.
We don't have the GL file.
He's not talking about